Say again?
That one's got the most fingerprints on it.
Probably yours. Actually, probably me, also. Oh, shit, see.
Just put the link in first. You got type of book. Alright, where are we supposed to be? Where are they done? So where are they supposed to be? What window? What?
This one, JSA Live Chat in Ubiquitous. So.
Can we click over there and see if anybody's joined up? 5 watching now. So that's live. So you should probably.
Oh, hi everyone. Sorry. We're trying to get this all synced up, but it's a mess. But we're doing it.
You don't need to type anymore. Because they can hear you. Stop goddamn typing.
What I want, man. Sorry. We're trying to get this all synced up, but it's a mess. But we're doing it. Oh good, and I'm on camera for this. Not knowing how to use it for rolling mouse. You can even leave that for me as well. It took us 5 minutes to delete that link between the two of us.
Is that right? Put the new link right there. Is that right?
Oh, you can see my what the fuck am I doing face? Yeah, that's correct.
Alright, just move along.
Alright. Tiny bit of shopkeeping, and I think we're ready to start. So let's have this open here so we can see real time. Oh, you can see my what the fuck am I doing face? Yeah, that's correct. Okay. I think we're actually ready to begin, and I think we have all the links worked out. My name is Zine. I'm Jason's assistant. I've been doing tech support for him, not super competently, clearly.
She's awesome, you guys. So Zine's going to moderate this so I can paint, and she can read any question that you guys have or comments or nasty things you want to say, whatever.
Don't say nasty things. Let's all be nice here. I've been doing tech support for him.
So Zine's going to be moderating, so she'll be kind of over here on the side, and I'm just going to paint. And drink.
And drink.
Zine's going to moderate this so I can paint.
Cheers to you guys. Thank you for being here and for being patient.
Cheers, guys.
Does anyone have any questions for Jason to start off? Or for me, I guess, but mostly for Jason.
Zine's going to be moderating.
Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of start trying to... I'm going to start a conversation with him. We have sort of a list of questions that maybe would be interesting. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here.
Cheers, guys. You can sit if you like.
I understand that, please.
You'd rather stand.
Start off. Not for me, I guess.
otherwise I'm just gonna kind of...
Also, we have a bit of delay on, it takes about 20 seconds at the moment for what we are seeing on our encoder to stream over to YouTube, so there just might be some time issues. We're figuring it out. And now we're broadcasting live. Now, question 1. We have a question. What whiskey or scotch are we drinking?
I'm gonna have you sit right here, stand just so I
I won't be able to see the questions if I'm over there. Unless I use my computer.
No. There's a little space.
Alright, so we have our first question. It is, what is the whiskey that we're drinking?
Oh!
It's this, which is...
We are drinking a Kalila 2006.
a single malt Scotch whiskey, Kalila Distillery, which I don't know much about. And we have another question. Do you use any mediums to speed drying?
Alright, so we have our first question.
Do you use mediums to speed drying?
This
This is the medium that he uses. I'm just gonna hold it up here.
single malt Scotch whiskey.
It is, if you can't read that,
Galkin.
Galkid, he says. It's an oil painting medium,
We have another question.
combustible liquid, and
Mediums to speed dry.
very dangerous if swallowed.
Make sure you have the lid. Canvas just in case.
Please let me know if I'm blocking the canvas. We're trying to
It's the medium that
navigate the space here.
it is, if you can't read that, Scout Kit. It's an oil painting medium.
So, Mr. Alexander,
Very
Yeah.
dangerous.
what are you painting? Is this a cover
This is a
or...
cover for Spawn number
Let me know if I'm
281.
blocking the canvas.
281.
Navigate the space here.
Right now I'm just trying to find the right color. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
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 I like hooray. I think that's awesome. Hooray.
Yeah. Yeah, hooray is gratifying.
It only took, see,
Only took a couple of weeks.
don't put your scotch glass on your palette. You almost dip your brush in the scotch and Spawn.
Ah. How many times have you dipped your brush in scotch?
Multiple.
Yes. So the medium does look suspiciously like the whiskey, which I'm sure can be very exciting sometimes. Do you ever confuse your whiskey and your oil mediums?
Yep.
Yes, he does. Have you ever ingested your oil medium?
No.
That's good, because on the package it does say that it's very dangerous and combustible.
I have,
Very exciting sometimes.
every once in a while I will, I'll dip my brush when I'm doing ink drawings into my coffee just because I want to do some ink washes. And then my wife gets upset because then she sees me drinking the coffee that I've been dipping my brush into. But luckily, most inks won't kill you. A lot of scotch.
How long does the average cover painting take?
Two to 5 days. 2 to 5 days.
And how many hours would that be if you broke it down? Is that working straight through the day?
No. Most of my painting days, what?
Just someone else's drink, coffee.
I
I bet your guys' guts are all dyed black. I think that's very cool.
Oh, hours.
Yeah, how many hours does it take to complete a painting? And how big is this?
This is 36 by 48.
Your guys' guts are all bright black.
Don't know where to stand.
I don't know. I just know it takes about 2 to 5 days.
2 to 5 days?
But no, not working nonstop. My painting days typically at the longest are 4 to 6 hours.
And why is that? Because I've seen
Paint
you work
gets
on...
wet.
Oh, okay. Because I've seen you work on comic pages like straight through the day for,
Yeah.
12 hours or whatever. So I wondered if
Ink,
just your psyche was different when you were painting.
ink dries Oil paint, even with dryer, is slow.
Do you work exclusively in oils, or do you use other paints sometimes?
A lot of times, I'll do the underpainting in acrylic. But not in this case, apparently.
Sorry, we've got a little dead time because I'm trying to think of a question.
Oh. She's going to question me.
I'm going to question him. I wrote a list of questions to try to be prepared.
Do we have everybody there? Like, the number of people that were waiting versus...
I don't know.
How many is...
We have 20 watching.
Oh yeah, that's more than...
We got 20 people watching. That's cool. So, you shaved your head recently. Jason shaved his head recently. I got here and was like, whoa, what happened?
I think it happened midday when you were working.
It did, yeah. You left and then you came back and you looked different. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? What happened to you? Anyway, I don't like change. So you mentioned that you shave your head kind of habitually, like a couple times a year, and that it's sort of like a philosophical thing for you, or just what does it have to do with how you work when you shave your head? Because it seems slightly ritualistic.
That's a good question. Look at you. I figure if I just compliment your question, I don't have to answer it.
You should answer.
No.
Oh, we've got a bunch of questions, actually.
Cool. What you got?
Oh god, so many questions now. That's correct.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, we've got... I'm going to do questions one at a time, so if we could pause for a moment while we kind of get the cue answered.
Let's just do a speed round.
All right. What impact does working so large have on your working methods, speed, details? This is referring to comic pages.
Same thing with painting. There's a looseness and a comfort. I hate noodling. I hate tiny little lines. So really, it just allows me to kind of be free. That's roughly it, as far as scale goes.
Cool. What makes oil your choice for finishing? Just why do you use
I
oil?
understand. Because of the it's a great question. Acrylic is a little too liquid, and I don't understand it. So it's really, really great for an underpainting. But as far as oil goes, I understand using dryer versus not using dryer, the opacity versus opacity. It's something that is it's comfortable to me. It's just my
That's what you do.
it's my medium of choice. I think it's diverse as fuck, and you can literally just move paint around if it's not feeling good, where you can't do that with wash, watercolor, really. The diversity factor, probably.
When, how, and what was your reaction when Todd asked you to do Spawn with him?
I thought I got a prank email. I mean, in all honesty, I got the email, and none of it made sense.
Like it was incoherent, or you were just...
No, I mean, he could write an email.
Right.
I'm saying, like, one of the first things that attracted me to comics was his Spider-Man. And I basically, when I was 16 or 17, ate the shit out of him. And then I discovered books like The Crow and that kind of thing. And so my style started to change. But initially it was his stuff. So when I saw the email, I thought it was bullshit. And then finally I responded. I'm like, yeah, okay. Then he wrote back with a long email. So I'm like, oh, this...
It's like, oh, it's legit.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
So then I gave him my phone number. And then I got a call. And I didn't believe... When I saw a phone number, I'm like, So then he left a voicemail, and yeah, even the voicemail, because he's so personable, he just started talking to me like he's known me for years, and I still didn't believe it on that voicemail until I called him, and even in the conversation talking to him, it took minutes. But when you're talking to him, you have hours, so it was good. So inevitably, it was really, really exciting. I'm excited now, but 1993 Jason is fucking doing flips.
Okay. How do you reproduce your large artwork for production? Photograph or scan?
Scan.
Scan. I can answer that because I scanned for him now.
This is the largest scale that I will scan.
Oh, I've never scanned a painting for you.
You're
How
about
does that... Oh, God. What the fuck scanner do you use? Do you use that one?
That one.
How the...
So the process for...
So his scanner, for reference, is
18 by 12.
So it's, 18 by 12-ish. That's 3 feet by 4 feet. Right. So how the fuck am I going to scan that painting with that scanner?
So this is the largest size that we do.
Okay.
We actually put the flatbed scanner on the floor in the middle of the studio with an extra long cord, set up stacks of books around the scanner, and literally piece by piece and marking it on the back, and then we put it all together in Photoshop.
Right.
And then there you go.
That sounds very exciting.
Anything above this, you will deliver to a photographer.
Right. Do you ever think of just having a photographer come photograph for you?
Costs more money.
Costs more money for a photographer, of course.
When you go to their setup, it's hundreds cheaper.
Right. Let me get down a bit.
Oh, when someone asked about drying time, right?
Yeah.
So I use Galkid for pretty much everything, but if it's an illustration, it's also aided by a dryer. Winsor Newton makes one, but honestly, my favorite is a brand called Cobalt Dryer.
This is the dryer.
Just applying a little bit to your oil paint will actually make it dry for the next day.
Huh. And once it's dry, is it set? Is it not malleable anymore?
Not really. I mean, enough turpentine can fuck up anything, but which is also, by the way, once I get to a stage that I really, really like, and then I know the next part of the process is going to be significant. Once it's dry, I will put a coat of polyurethane. Literally just deck Minwax polyurethane over that, and that's kind of secures everything and seals it in. Then I can paint on top of that, and if I fuck it up, I can wipe it away and not mess with the painting.
Oh, cool.
So it's my own personal Control-Z for painting.
An oil will bond to polyurethane?
It's oil. I specifically have to buy an oil-based polyurethane.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Which they don't allow in California anymore, so I have to have it shipped in from Arizona.
Is that legal?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Dalton Ryan says, I was always taught using black paint is like an unwritten rule, and it's better to mix to make black. Do you find that rule to be a matter of preference?
Yep. Yes, I do.
What do you do?
There are beautiful painters that use black, illustrators as well, and guys like Phil Hale is one. He uses blacks beautifully.
Do you mean he uses like true black paint? He doesn't mix his blacks?
No. But in all honesty, so everything I do, even in painting, is the videos that you guys have seen is what I do. So this all started with an ink drawing and spatter and washes. So the solid blacks that you see inevitably kind of get glazed over. So even though I'm not mixing other paints with the black, I'm still glazing over the black. So I guess essentially it's still not true black. I'm just glazing over it on the canvas as opposed to mixing it on the palette. Makes sense.
Sense to me.
We're just drinking right now. Like, it's Sunday and it's 5:30.
All right. Yes, that is going to take some scanning takes. I'm catching up on the chat. Someone's grandpa used to use Cobalt Drive? So
Yeah, man.
yeah. It is like Photoshop real life layers, yeah. How much do you plan on painting like the one you're working on before you start with the paint?
Only the study for the drawing. I don't do color studies. That might be a lie. I've done 2 color studies in my life, but for the most part, I kind of know. And because of my other life as a fine artist, there's still that aspect of chance that I really love in my work. So I should plan things out more to be more efficient as an illustrator. But to me, it's still painting, and I believe I leave a lot of my shit to chance. Let's just see what happens in the moment.
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity.
Before you even start painting, how much do you plan in terms of like the reference photo, or are you directed? Like, does the writer tell you what the cover should be, or does Todd?
Sometimes people have suggestions. Every time you send in a sketch for approval. Once you get an approval, then I go ape shit. I don't really. There's so many really good, competent, professional illustrators out there, and I am not one of them. I have luckily established over the last 20 years that editors will not see good layouts or pencils from me because they look like shit. My layouts and my pencils look like shit, and everything is in the final product. So, you know, about 5 years ago, it finally started clicking that, you know, editors, if they were going to hire me, knew to not expect that shit. So there's a certain level of spontaneity that even editors allow me to have.
Well, it seems like if they would be hiring you for this, they would come to kind of expect that to be part of the package of your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a moment when I was asked to do Abe Sapien with Mike Mignola writing. When I was asked to do that, Mike likes everything professional. He wants to see layouts tight. He wants to see pencils tight. He wants to see inks tight. All of this completely legitimate. My pencils are nasty. And I kept sending in... Huh? Yeah. No. I kept sending in pencils, and there were these pauses, and all of a sudden, like, I get this email back from Scott Alley that basically says, like, look, maybe this isn't the right project. Like, maybe this just didn't work. And it got me so frustrated. And this was the biggest book I had gotten a chance to work on. And so...
When was this?
9 years ago. Maybe sooner. And so essentially what I did was I went 2 weeks of radio silence, editors emailing me, and everybody's kind of flipping out. But in those 2 weeks, I did 7 fully inked pages, and I sent those in, and I got a response of, basically, we hate how you work, but we love what happens. So, go ahead.
So we're going to deal with how much we hate your work to get your work.
So at that point, I
doubled...
That's
kind of a compliment.
Yeah, I
like,
doubled
we'll
down on
with
how
this.
I did my shit because I wanted to show them it's effective. And, yeah, their reluctance but acceptance was awesome.
That's great. Let me try to catch up on these questions here.
Oh yeah, let's do some Scotch.
What glazing medium do you use?
Galkid.
Yeah. Is it this?
Yep.
This is the glazing medium. It is Galkid. Galkid. Drinking at work for the win, yes.
Yeah.
Don't you have a color comp for this piece?
Nope.
No color comp for this piece? So you're just winging it, color-wise?
Yeah.
Cool. Living dangerously. Dalton Ryan says you always make really good use of color in your paintings.
Thank you. It's all luck.
It's all luck. What kind of setup do you use for your reference photography?
I used to literally have photos that I printed out, taped all over the canvas. Now, I'll just turn the computer, turn it back, so they can see this guy. Oh, no, it's already in there.
Yeah.
Now I have an iPad.
And do you shoot your reference photos yourself, or
Yes,
always?
always.
I've been on one reference photo shoot with him, and it was really fun. It was in his living room.
It was
With-
energetic.
It was energetic, with kind of Jason with a camera with one hand and also holding a light with the other, sort of shining light like this and taking the picture with this hand, and I was like, I can hold the light for you, and it was just, that's how you do it. So he didn't let me. But it was fun, it was kind of a party. Yes, he takes his own reference photos, using the same models, generally throughout the run of a comic.
Yes.
Yes. Actions speak louder than layouts. In the Abe Sapien TPB, they show some pencils, and yep, those are some loose pencils.
Those are as tight as they go.
Those are really tight for you. Someone says they absolutely love your Abe Sapien.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, we're out of questions.
Cool.
More questions, guys. Oh, there it is. Dalton Ryan said he was going to ask you how to get the extreme lighting in your work, but you just do that yourself, handheld. Nice.
Handheld.
Nice. Well, we've reached the end of the question pile, so let's return to your head shaving,
Oh,
since that was unanswered.
you might need to ask that one again.
But the question was, I came to work on Wednesday, and he had hair when I got there, and then during a lunch break he disappeared and came back and had no hair. And, and that's what happened. So I know that shaving your head is a little bit of kind of a ritualistic thing for you, because I've heard you say that in other interviews. For Temple of Art, the documentary by Olga Nunes and Alan Amato, you talked about shaving your head.
Oh, yeah.
Why? What does it do? What does that mean to you, kind of the purging of hair?
There's a couple of times a year when the work gets a little overwhelming, or there's just massive death. Basically, it's my no bullshit thing. Like, psychologically, it keys me in to know that I'm about to jump into some goddamn work. As probably narcissistic as it sounds, the idea is that I don't want to fuss with anything that's not priority or artwork or that, and so I don't even want to fuck with, like, is my hair messed up, is anything up. So over time, it basically came down to, like, if I shave my head, every time I shave my head in the course of a year, it means no more fucking around. Let's get to it. Yeah, and it's just this psychological thing for me of, like, it's time to move.
Nice. All right. We've got a couple more questions. What's something that's true that almost nobody agrees with you on? Art, life, something that's true.
Shit. Who asked that? That's fantastic.
Myron Macklin asked that. Good question.
Myron, goddamn.
Some heavy shit, man.
Yeah, man.
Let's get real.
We might jump to a couple of other questions, but that one's going to be in my brain because I'm going to answer that one. I just got to figure it out.
All right, let's let that percolate a second.
I wanted to fuck with the audience and say that Trump was a good president,
Ugh,
but
don't do that.
I
Don't do that to us.
can't go that far.
If you do that, I quit.
Yeah.
There's a question in all caps from Matosa. in all caps it says, "How would you like a Gerardo Zaffino sketchbook?" Question mark.
Oh shit.
How would you like it?
That guy is a goddamn line master. I mean, after his father, obviously. Wait, you said Gerard?
Gerardo Zaffino.
Yeah.
How would you like a Gerardo Zaffino sketchbook?
I mean, that'd be incredible. The work, yeah. That guy's work is in the lighting and the cross hatching. Goddamn. I mean, I love, that there's a few guys where I can just go and be in awe and just enjoy it, and he is one of them.
It's high praise. So no more mohawks, someone asked.
Never say never.
Never say never on the mohawk. We both used to have mohawks, and then we both shaved our heads. Not simultaneously. Just it's a thing we have in common.
Right. We don't have a cult.
No. We have no hair cult here.
No. I mean, I'm sure there's a hair cult knowing somewhere.
Right, but not in this studio. What's next for Empty Zone? Or is that going to be kept a secret for now?
Empty Zone, God bless you. Right now I'm working on the script for the third arc for Empty Zone, which essentially will be the final chapter in the first full story. The first actual story arc of Empty Zone is essentially 15 issues. And so the last 5 issues that I'm working on right now will complete this first full arc and then open the door for tons of shit, because everything changes in these next 5 issues. And
how many issues have there been so far?
10. There's been 10 issues so far. So then the next 5 issues fill out this kind of Oni trilogy with Oni's the name of the villain. And we finalize it, and then basically after that we start with the next arc, which will start with issue 1 again as its own story after that. But
wow, so 15 issues for just the first arc.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any? I mean, that's pretty prolific already. Do you have any estimation on how many arcs there will be, or is it kind of infinite as the ideas come to you? Infinite possibility.
The first 15 issues define the series, and everything else after that becomes indefinite. Like, as far as how long it will go, because we're creating, I'm creating characters that will inevitably at some point have their own series. Very much, following the Hellboy model of like, here's our main thing, but Vicar gets his own book, or this, that kind of a thing. So, Empty Zone is my long-term plan, and it might be taking a little long to get there right now, but it's the long-term book that once it starts up again in next year, it's not going to stop. That's about it.
So you're creating kind of a whole universe with it.
Yes.
Nice. Intellectual property?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's get some questions here. Oh, regarding Gerardo Zaffino?
Yeah.
Mato Sa, says he's a friend of his, and Mato is one of the editors. So one of your patrons is one of the editors. His father, Jorge, is certainly a master.
Yes.
And his father before him. If you want one, email me an address and he can send one for you. You broke him.
That's goddamn awesome. And thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be following up on that. Yeah, thank you very much. We'll be following up on that for sure. Let's see. More questions. What were or are some of your favorite comics? You mentioned Spawn earlier. This is from Colby Z. Com, I think. Colby Z. Com. What are some of your favorite comics? What were and what are?
Okay. Were is easier because I feel like I'm an old man that was actually fairly close to retiring from comics. And
when?
just a couple years ago, before I actually did Empty Zone. I was on my way out, and I realized I didn't want to leave until I really knocked some shit out of the park, and then I kind of came back. So I feel like an old man when I say like I'm kind of finding comics again. So as far as like the ones that are out now, Southern Bastards has to be an absolute favorite. Hellboy in Hell was momentous, and what Mr. Miracle. If I can be a dick for a moment, there's not a lot of the kind of art that I like that is in comics now, and this is why it's a dick / old man, because
You're like back in the day.
yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm kind of a student of the old Vertigo days, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to see in comics. Right now, the writers are, for the most part, the rock stars, but and I think that's made for a lot of artists to realize that they can just kind of skim by. And I can't stand that. I want to make that impression with art again, like it did in those old Vertigo days. And so when you ask about art and comics that I like, it comes down to like these quintessential books for me, like The Crow and Signal to Noise, Stray Toasters. These guys that Tell Me Dark, these guys that painted and really put craft and effort into these books, and it was just old school traditional stuff, and I fucking loved it. And not to be the old man ragging on digital, like you can also buy these pages, you can own this art, and it's amazing. But the stories and things, I guess. Like the Dave McKean, Neil Gaiman thing was definitely a favorite. Violent Cases, Signal to Noise, Black Orchid, shit like that. Everything Dave's done on his own, even down to the Black Dog book. Black Dog, holy shit, what a great graphic novel. Black Dog, I think through Dark Horse. Then I just kind of follow creators, like anything Ryan K. Vaughan writes, I'll check out. Anything Mike Mignola draws, I'll check out. It's kind of all over, right? Like Kelly Jones's Batman run was one of my absolute favorites, but primarily for art. I think I'm going to go off on a kind of a drunken tangent after a while, so we're just going to move on from this.
All right, moving on. Can't wait to see... Oh, sorry, I just scrolled the wrong way. Can't wait to see the rest of Empty Zone's arc. It sounds awesome. Any details on this digital comic you've been dropping hints about?
Yes. It's in my experiment with the Cintiq and the Wacom and doing digital stuff. Because Spawn is the first book I've done my own colors, or my own digital colors on. And so... Yes, starting next month, you guys are going to start seeing, through Patreon only, kind of a fucked up stream of conscious, personal webcomic. And it's going to be funny and dark and weird, and hopefully you'll like it.
What did you use for... Oh, you lost it again. What did you use for inking before you discovered the Pilot Parallel pen?
Nibs, and I still use them. I still use... one of my favorites is the Gelat 303 and 404, and I, especially in the most current issue of Spawn, I have gone back to using nibs for most of my character outlines. There's a lot of my line work that's going back to nibs. I love the Pilot parallel pen. It is the best thing for mobile work. But for me, nothing beats that beautiful organic line that quills and dips can give you.
When you do comics, how do you balance keeping style consistent through the comic while giving yourself room to be loose and have fun? It's a good question. Good question, Adam Stolterman.
How do I what?
How do you balance keeping style consistent through the whole comic, but while also giving yourself room to be loose and have fun and be spontaneous? Like maintaining consistency while also experimenting simultaneously.
By not thinking one iota about maintaining consistency. I don't think at all, ever, about maintaining consistency and style. And because if shit switches up, shit switches up. Because, I mean, I love that it's a job, and I love that comics are an amazing, a really big industry. But for me, I got into it, and I still do it because of the love of the medium. And so, much like with painting, I let shit, I let shit lead me. And like I really, as cheesy as this line sounds, I really kind of feel like a fine artist making comics, because I love the medium so much that that I really treat it that way. I love the spontaneity. I love what it allows me to do. I love how I learn and grow. And I love telling a story. Comics are goddamn perfect. So I don't try to maintain a consistency on any level. I really just kind of breathe into it. I feel like I'm yelling.
I mean, kind of have to so they hear you.
Oh, okay.
I have my laptop so I don't have to keep squinting and scrolling at you guys. It feels awkward.
Use glasses.
No, I just keep having to kind of go up to the screen to read the questions, and I just put my whole face right in front of the camera. It just feels weird.
Maybe they love you by now.
Oh, Downton Ryan says, speaking of vertigo and art nowadays, Frostbite was a great way to bring that back. So it's just giving you a compliment.
You were very kind. I did not get to do half of what I wanted to do in Frostbite because of deadlines, but that was, again, as far as the learning thing goes, I learned what worked, what didn't work, and now I just won't take a project on that's going to rush and not allow for some level of fuckery, like artistic fucking around and figuring shit out. But Frostbite was absolutely a blast, and Josh is a fantastic fucking writer, and yeah, that was an amazing experience because everybody at Vertigo is also the shit.
Cheers to Vertigo.
Cheers to Vertigo.
Myron Macklin says, I totally agree. I think about you and comics not seeking them out as much nowadays. He has more money to go buy comics now, but rarely feels the need to go to the shop.
Yeah.
Oh, got a good question from Myron Macklin. What's the one thing that turned your art world upside down and had the biggest impact on where you wanted your art to go?
Holy shit. Four artists, and specifically those guys, because everything else is instinctive. Like, the reason I moved from Tennessee to go to North Carolina and hopefully study with guys like Kent Williams and those guys was because I was dissatisfied and I couldn't see my shit growing anywhere beyond where it was. So that part is always just instinctive, and I don't think there's anything that's going to click that's going to make me want to grow more, because I wake up and I want to grow more. But there were so obviously guys like Sienkiewicz and McKeon and those guys, but the guy that, it was Kent Williams' work was you know, this shit that just. And honestly, after having known him, like, he really is this. He's a fine artist that did comics. I don't necessarily think he was the best comic book artist. As a matter of fact, I think storytelling-wise, I don't, you know, he really wasn't the best, is the nice way I can say it. But what he is a draftsman and a fine art painter. And seeing that in comics blew me the fuck away. And his work just hit me on such a guttural level that I knew I needed to start thinking differently about what I did. And that literally led me to move from Tennessee to North Carolina in hopes of studying or in meeting him. Francis Bacon is the artist that showed me where I wanted to take my figuration. I wanted to take it a little bit further and abstract things and really hit the emotional content as opposed to being accurate. I know I said 4, now I'm trying to think of those 4. The Cathy Kollwitz is kind of the opposite of Francis Bacon as far as the abstraction goes, but the weight and rendering in her work fucking floored me. Like, it's Cathy Kollwitz was one of the main inspirations for a body of work I did called the Mourner's Walk Over Maple Leaves. And yeah, her, I don't know, I can just say look her up because it feels like her ink drawings weigh a ton. Because not the materials, but the emotional success that she achieves in these pieces. Finally is Zephyr Tunis, which I've referenced in some of my videos, because he's kind of like the illustrative, cartoony version of Kollwitz, with these big, beautiful, knobby hands, and the spatter technique that I use was the first time I was ever exposed to it was through George Pratt, who showed me Edward Tunis' work, and it changed. It changed basically my everyday application of art.
Whew. Nice. Someone would like to know how you spell Cathy's last name.
And Cathy itself is actually, because she's German or Austrian or something, K-A-T-H-E. And Kollwitz is K-O-L-L...
W-I-T-Z.
There you go.
It's K-A-T-H-E K-O-L-L-W-I-T-Z. Cathy Kollwitz. The digital stuff that's coming sounds almost like a Sienkiewicz style of working from you via the webcomic.
Oh, cool. I'm not aware of him kind of doing more of a personal stream of conscious kind of a thing, but I love the guy's fucking work, so I got nothing.
Yeah, Bill's the best. Holy shit. He's so good at what he does, and he's also really, really nice. He's a really kind person, that Bill Sienkiewicz, in my experience.
Yeah.
We are over halfway through this live stream. We've got 1 hour in. And we've run out of questions, so any more? Open requests for questions.
Was there one
There was one that you were going to think about, so let me go back and try to find it. Yeah.
It's so weird that there's a delay. So that means they see everything on a delay?
No, they
Or
see
just
everything
we?
in real time, but we are aware of the delay of when we talk versus when it airs, which is about 20 seconds.
But when it airs, that's what they see.
Yeah, I think they see you guys see, there's no delay to you, right? Because we are speaking and then what we say follows about 20 to 30 seconds later, so it's a little confusing to kind of match the questions to what we'd already said. So just asking if there's any sort of delay. But I think it all looks pretty normal on your end, because I'm watching it also on my own laptop, and everything looks... Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, I'm one of the 19 watching.
Oh, there was 20. Somebody left. So 2 people left.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, there's 20 watching now. Someone just joined. Yeah. We did it. Regarding Bill Sienkiewicz, Dalton Ryan says Electra Assassin, Bill's stuff looked like acid images pouring out of his brain. Cool.
Like, my, you know what? And I completely fucked up when it came to like talking about other artists, because it's so bizarre that you kind of forget your fathers in a way. Like Will Eisner literally changed why I work the way that I work. I was doing superhero comics until I read The Crow. The Crow hit me in such an emotive way that I had no idea that comics could do that. I had no idea that this medium was capable of mature content that could make you fucking cry. And because of what James did, I was introduced to Will Eisner's work. This is when I was 17, 18. And Eisner's work changed everything for me. You know, he's buddies with Jack Kirby, who's creating the goddamn Fantastic Four. At the same time, Will Eisner is doing doing stories about what it's like to grow up in Brooklyn as a poor Jewish kid. And for me, there was no comparison. Like I had no idea that you could do stories like that. And again, not to just keep equating artist to artist, but Eisner had a lot of like this Cathy Kollwitz thing. Like his figures had these kind of big hands. Like everything emotional, he exaggerated. These big hands, these gnarly things, and I'm just like, God damn! And it blew me away. And Eisner's work is absolutely just. I own damn near every book. I have a couple of them signed to me because before he passed, I got to meet him. But it was, yeah, talk about the quintessential storyteller. I just, yeah, his work was gorgeous.
Adam Stolterman would like to know, do you know where the painting is going, and do you know how it will look when it's done, or do you wait until it feels right? Like, how do you know when it's done?
I know where it's going. I know, like, psychologically, I know where it's going. Actually, the thing is that this was unintentionally, I did do an unintentional color study, because in comics, you need to do a solicitation image months ahead of when the book comes out. This was nowhere near done, so I took a photo of the ink drawing and then digitally painted it just so it could show up in the previous catalog as like a little beep. But in doing that, it basically became a color study, and so now I kind of have an idea.
So you accidentally did a color study.
I accidentally did a color study.
So you've now done 3 color studies in your life.
The industry tricked me into doing a color study. But yes, I know exactly. This is actually going to be a bit of a special cover because it's going to be a wraparound. There's going to be a second canvas, same size, beside it, because she will have wings. And that'll make a really beautiful graphic element.
Cool.
And this will be the cover of the Spawn after the one that hits the stands next week.
Which issue hits the stands next week?
280.
280.
This is for 281.
So we had a question earlier that you wanted to go back to, that you wanted to think about for a while. So I don't know if you actually did. But it was, what's something that's true that almost nobody agrees with you on? Art, life, etc.
Keep that in my head.
Yeah, something that's true. That's a good question.
Damn.
It's a hard one.
You can ask a question. I'm going to keep it in my back of my head now before I drink.
I think you should drink more and then answer the question. Let's just get some honesty out of you. Any more questions, everyone? It looks like we've reached kind of the end of the stack. So keep them coming. Jason's getting ice. Actually, you said something earlier that kind of made me curious. You said something about your other job as a fine artist. Something to that effect. But you implied a differentiation between you as a comic artist and you as a fine artist, and I was just wondering how those are separated in your head and sort of even professionally how it affects your process and kind of the administration side of it. Just, I don't know, talk about that, fine artist versus comic artist, since you do both. And do they bleed into each other?
They absolutely bleed into each other. The fine art informs the comics inform the fine art. Everything with fine art is 100% limitless. I mean, okay, at its very core, a friend of mine, Robin Eley, who was a fantastic painter, Eley spelled E-L-E-Y. Check out his shit; it's incredible. Told me that he differentiated illustration versus fine art from who is the author, which I thought was incredible. Did someone tell you to do it, or did you do it? There you go.
Huh.
If someone told you to do it, and you're doing something they asked you to do on their specifications, it's illustration. If you're doing it on your own, it's fine art. And I really loved that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but even when you're doing it on your own, so bringing it over into comics and illustration, that's where writing comes in. You know, like when you're in control of the story itself, then it becomes way more limitless, but the medium itself requires some level of limit. Like, you can't just be, if you're just doing vague art images that imply shit that you hope that people figure out, you're basically doing a portfolio, and hoping people figure it out and you're calling it comics. You have, like, comics itself, like, you're telling a story. There are certain, parameters and dynamics that you kind of have to adhere to because you want the audience to be emotionally invested. So you can't just glue a skull to the top of the goddamn page because it felt right. Like, you need to literally, make shit make sense. You can push those limits, and that's what I try to do. But if there's a significant difference, it is that storytelling aspect of you need to kind of be clear. Like, and that's a really fun thing about fine art is that you don't have to be clear about shit. You don't have to do anything about shit. You just make whatever you want to make, whatever it feels, however that's the beauty in fine art, where comics there is this kind of predetermined thing. I love the predetermined thing.
But it is a predetermined thing.
But it is predetermined.
No, your thing.
If this were a painting for fine art, it would. Covers are a little different. You can kind of cut loose a little bit, but for the most part, in pages and shit like that, you definitely have to.
Well,
you can't be as vague and weird.
I mean, yeah, because you have to design around speech bubbles and storytelling elements rather than just being able to base it all just visually on what it's stunning to.
Right.
Right. We have more questions. Thanks for these. What is your average day like?
chaos.
I can answer that. He wakes up at like 5, walks to get coffee, walks back, and then stays in the studio all day and doesn't leave. He just lives in this burrow of art. And I mean, you don't even really do errands anymore because I do them on the days that I work.
Yay, Zine.
Yay me. And then once your day's kind of over art-wise, you go in and hang out with your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a glorified, messy 3-year-old for the hours of 5:30 to 9. But yeah, other than that, she nailed it. I wake up at 5 and I work.
And then you work till when? 5, 6?
5.
So 5 to 5.
Yeah. You know, but keep in mind, it's not, 12 hours of constant. What I've, over the years, what I found, which actually kind of goes against what you might initially think, is breaks are not only enjoyable but necessary. So I tend to work not methodically. I tend to work in 2 to 3 hour increments of explosive fucking energy and getting shit done. And then once I realize my mind is wandering or I'm doing, or something's feeling more labored, then I stop. And it took a lot of years to realize I need to stop.
I mean, that's a skill in itself, recognizing when you're kind of torturing something.
Yeah.
Especially because your personality needs to kind of bear down, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
if something's challenging you, you sort of attack it until like, get it right, but actually that seems like you would just be torturing it.
Yeah, get it done, put the work in, blah, blah, blah. No. When my mind is clear, I work fucking fast and I work great. When I'm stuck on a deadline or if I'm thinking I need to just stay at the fucking desk because that's what you're supposed to do, the work is labored and nothing flows. So it takes a minute to kind of understand that breaks are awesome. And you go and you have to take a guiltless break, by the way. There's none of this shit where you're like, I'm at the coffee shop, but I at some point I'm going to be working again and blah, blah, blah. No. Embrace that shit. Live in the moment. Take your break. Take an hour. Go eat something. Have a coffee. And then, at some point, I kind of start reading or looking at an art book, and then I'm like, oh, shit. And then there's another 3 hours of awesome. So it happens like that over 12 hours.
All right. How many paintings do you usually have going at the same time?
3.
Is
that a weird thing
always,
to have a number in my head?
Just
but
always?
Yeah.
Just flat out, you always have 3?
Sometimes one is too wet and I can't get onto it, so I jump on another. And sometimes I'm not feeling 2 paintings, and so the 3rd one works. So there's always 3 canvases on the easel.
And so right now it looks like you have 2 spawn covers, yeah?
Yeah.
And then this 3rd is fine art?
Yep.
Cool. 2 comics and a fine art at the moment.
This could be the name of my biography.
2 comics and a fine art.
2 comics and a fine art.
When you worked on House of Golden Bones, did you get to meet Corey Taylor? If so,
No!
If so, what was he like? So you did not.
I really wanted to, and we emailed back and forth a good number of times. But no, and I was a fan. Like, I used to listen to Slipknot while I worked, and so you know Slipknot. Okay, so the lead singer of Slipknot wrote a comic.
Okay.
And I did covers for it.
But you didn't meet him.
No, well, everything is done, over the internet
Yeah,
and blah
of
blah
course,
blah. But yeah, I would have loved to, because he seemed like a cool dude.
Maybe you'll still meet him one day.
Yeah, at least over email we have shot the shit, and he was awesome. That's and kudos to whoever asked that question. That's awesome.
Kudos to you, Ish. Any writers you would like to work with in the future?
Ish? Did you say?
I said, yeah, the person who asked that about Corey Taylor is named Ish.
Is that her real name?
I don't know.
There's a really great children's book. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. There's a really great children's book called Ish, and I can't recommend that one enough. I know a lot of children's books now.
Does he have a child?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of doing a children's book? Have you ever wanted to work
I
on
have
one?
2 in the works.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Any, like, one sentence summary for a plot? Is it you writing, or is it...
One is purely, yes. I'm co-writing one and I'm writing the other. And one is purely the absurd of stream of conscious craziness that I thought was fun as hell. And the other one has more of a meaning to it, and I can't talk anything more about that.
Is that the one that you were writing yourself, or are you writing that one?
That's the one I'm co-writing.
Co-writing.
What was the one before that?
What question?
Yeah.
Corey Taylor. Oh, any writers you would like to work with in the future?
I'm going to be working with one of my favorite writers named Rodney Barnes. Rodney Barnes comes mostly from TV and film with things like The Boondocks. And he and I are going to be doing an image book that we co-created, and that's going to be for early next year. I would love to work with Brian again. Brian K. Vaughan, we did The Escapists together, but I would love to work with him on something current. So yeah, Brian is awesome. I would love to work with Scotty Young. I would love to work. I know, Jason Latour really well. I would like to work on something with him. But yeah, right now, as much as I love the idea of that stuff, other than the book I'm going to do with Rodney, basically kind of expect most of the shit in the next few years to be my projects and my things, because it's time.
It's time.
It's time.
You've paid your dues.
Yeah, it's time to start making some goddamn comics.
Ish said that yes, that's the real name. So
Awesome.
Good on you, Ish.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. Christian McKenzie says, your storytelling seems very literal and linear, like a storyboard. Do you consciously choose not to use storytelling abstractions and symbolism like Dave McKean or Sienkiewicz? Sienkiewicz. Thank you.
The stories they've done, basically everything that Dave Mack has done in that kind of the way that he does it, he wrote. So there's that.
Right.
Everything McKean has done like that was written because of that style. Same thing with Bill. But the
Good night, Adam. Thank you for staying up with us. Adam Stolterman is in Sweden, and it's 3:25.
God damn, Adam! Cheers. Thank you.
All right.
I think I just drank some
Some medium.
some oil paint. I'm gonna put it over there.
Did you drink oil paint, or did you drink the medium?
Whatever drips into it.
Jason might have just drank poison. He's
I mean,
okay.
not enough for the hospital.
Just a tiny bit of poison. Okay. Were you done answering that one?
I don't know. What was the question?
Do you consciously choose not to use storytelling abstraction and symbolism? That your storytelling seems more literal and linear?
Why is that?
Christian McKenzie.
Christian. Even though I said all that stuff, the answer is actually yes. There are books like, ironically, that Dave McKean did, Cages, that's what I love. When it comes to my storytelling, it's Will Eisner, it's Cages by Dave McKean, and
Which is always on hand, by the way. Like, it's just always out.
And as even though I believe, at least if my friends are correct, Dave Sim being kind of a prick, but Cerebus, honestly, Cerebus, Jesus, I mean, storytelling brilliant, and I mean, and Mike Mignola, but yeah, when it comes to doing my own, when it comes to storytelling, yeah, I tend to be a very different person from my fine art and cover stuff. I love going nuts on pieces, but when it comes to comics, I'm the guy who adds panels as opposed to wants to do splash pages. To me, I love these moments of like some characters screaming, and then before they say something else, drawing another panel that shows a beat, and then show them screaming again. Like, I want to invest that audience in that moment as much as I possibly can. And as much as I goddamn love all those other guys' work where you're reading a comic and sometimes you have to twist it around, like, all of this shit is so beautiful. But for me personally, I want to keep that reader, like, it's so funny. Like, the biggest thing that switches me up in the comics is that I'm a writer, and I just want that audience to be fully goddamn invested, as opposed to being taken out of it by like, oh, this is so cool, I'm interacting with the physical comic, or I'm having to interpret. I'm like, no, I don't want you to interpret. I want you to see these characters fucking feel and do what I want them to do.
Well, it's such kind of a cinematic way of going about it. Like to
Absolutely
insert beats and to insert pauses and to sort of stretch a moment with tension. It's like editing a film.
When I work in comics, I'm constantly thinking, not with the actual hope of optioning a thing, because I do it for work for hire and stuff like that, but I do it when I draw comic book pages. I'm only thinking cinematically. I want people to, because that's the beautiful, comics are a visual reading, a visual literal thing. Like, so I think cinematically, yeah.
All right. Another question. Connor Boyle asks, how do you balance trying to achieve what you want to achieve on the comic page in your head versus deadlines?
Reality. Like, reality is what reality is. So basically, when I see the deadline approaching, I start, instead of shortcutting myself, I just start planning and in an economizing my line kind of way. So I realize, like, oh shit, I can't really paint this final page. So what's a fast way that I know that I can still get the emotion across? So without going on a huge digression of style and how I approach it, the answer really is, keep an eye on my deadline and basically plan in advance what I can do and what's possible and what's not.
So sometimes you have to balance art with not pulling your reader out of the story. Colby's Ecom says.
I think when I'm making if I'm painting a page, it's because I want your eye to stay on that page longer than the previous pages. And if I don't have the time to paint that page, luckily I have 20 years of experience of figuring out other ways to keep you there without advancing forward enough. But it may not be the way that I initially wanted to do it, but you definitely have another pocket full of backup.
It's a lot of problem solving, really.
A lot of problem solving.
Myron Macklin asks, what do you enjoy more, the process or the finished piece, and why?
Both give two absolutely different feelings. The process is something I'm lost in, and I'm genuinely, when everything's working, man, goddamn, I'm barely aware of the world around me. and it's incredible to be able to, in a society as fucked up in the times that we're in, as absurd as they are, to be able to lose yourself in something that is just so personal and enjoyable and also hectic and horrible and vicious. To be able to lose yourself in your own world is awesome. But yeah, but when I finish a page, I love to look at that page and see if it works. And honestly, man, work in print is something I love. So when I see that shit on the stands, I get so excited. I made a thing. I made a physical thing that you can go and see in a store. And so, I mean, I love them all. I just love them in different ways.
What would your typical writing process be for something like Empty Zone? Script, thumbnail, etc. Also, thank you for doing this, Kyle says. You're welcome, Kyle.
Everything is plotted out on, handwritten paper. I very rarely do actual scripts. I felt guilty about that until I got my Ape Sapien script. Granted, this was a long time ago. But at that point, when I did Ape Sapien, Mike Mignola still wrote his scripts the same way I did, which was through thumbnails and handwriting shit on the side of the thumbnails, which was the script. So my actual script for Ape Sapien were JPEGs, which were just scanned faxes of the shit that Mike Mignola sent in.
Did you print them? Do you have them? That sounds amazing.
I still have, I guess I still have them on a computer. But it's, so that's how when it comes time to script, like, I have my story beats and scene suggestions all written down and worked out. But yeah, I script in thumbnails because writing timing and writing descriptions of rooms and places seem pointless to me because I can draw them.
And you can already see it.
Yeah, that's the like when I'm.
So it's redundant for
when
you
I'm describing everything in a room, I'm like, what the fuck? Like
why am I taking the time to describe this when I could just start drawing it?
I don't want to write beat. There's this and then there's a beat. I'm like, I can just.
So your sort of cinematic way of working is really instinctive then. Like you don't plot those beats in, they come to you. You just know that's what the scene needs.
Yeah, I mean the comics are. When I say it's a perfect medium, it's literally like getting to shoot your movie and then put the dialogue in and it still makes sense. Like, you can literally, because everything changes. There's so many writers that will change or do a final edit once they see the finished artwork. So this is just kind of getting a jump on that because you're literally writing these beats, but you're drawing them and I can see it like, oh shit. Because at that point, you're the closest to the reader that you're ever going to be. And so when I know I want this scene to really linger and stay in the audience's mind, I'm doing it at that moment, and I can just continue this. And there's so many times where I have to either change where I'm going to end that particular issue because you kind of have to end it on a cliffhanger or whatever. But essentially working like that. I mean, you have to go back and then kind of edit that. If you're like. If you need 20 pages and all of a sudden you've got 28, now you have to go back and edit. But for the most part, I script in thumbnails.
I think that's how Mad Max Fury Road was written. It didn't really have a script. It was storyboarded just throughout the entire thing. Like every shot
Shit.
Yep. I have a really good Mad Max making of book, and I'll bring it to you.
Mad Max fact. I was asked to do one of the Mad Max comics.
What?
I couldn't because at that point I was doing Empty Zone, and this was before the movie came out that I was asked, and then I was told that why did I forget his name? But the creator director
George
Miller.
George Miller, yeah, who also did Babe,
knows my stuff and was a fan. So I was excited, though I had to pass, and then I saw the movie,
and you were like.
And then I see Charlize Theron jump out of her fucking truck with a big mechanical arm, and I'm like, God damn it!
It's Empty Zone.
How big of a fan is he? But, So yeah,
Well, that's a compliment then if George Miller's, stealing from
if
you.
he's that kind of a fan, then it's it's a
I don't think George Miller's stealing from you.
no.
Yeah.
I
That's so
mean,
cool.
it's also not a unique fucking snowflake to
Sure.
have a female character with a cybernetic arm.
Yeah. So we're at 6:34. We're in kind of the home stretch of this. We've got 25 minutes left, and we've got a good process question here from Gerald Lange. Do you prefer to start with contour line or look for shapes and shadow forms to start a piece?
Contour. No matter how dramatic and how much the light and all of that is going to play in the image, you gotta know the rules before you break them. So as much as I want to do this kind of dramatic thing and start blocking in shapes, I don't. I take that extra time and edge in everything that you're supposed to edge in so that whole figure exists, because if it doesn't, there really is a significant possibility that your finished product is going to lose something when it comes to the solidity of it. And that may sound like so, but I mean, no, that's a really big deal, because so much artwork that I see initially is very pretty because of those fairly easy things of like dynamic lighting, but inevitably they don't merit a second view because it's just not solid. There's nothing beyond the dramatic surface of it. So as much as I want to just jump the fuck in and blah, 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 like inevitably I still structure everything with the contour, with the shapes, with the forms, with the drawing, and then I build into it, because inevitably that's what's going to make it not only hit initially, but keep hitting. There's so many guys, there's a few artists out there that have the more of the shtick of the drama, and it always makes me click or look or whatever, and I like it, but never a second time, because you saw all there is to see. Kent Williams was my painting mentor, and there's this level of layering and history and form that he really pushed into my brain, that and this is why I'm a fairly unprofessional illustrator, because I just hate the fucking idea of shortcuts. Like, I mean, I have quick ways to get around certain things, but inevitably, inevitably every page I've done, whether I silhouette the figure or not, that shit has been penciled in.
Like, you build the scaffolding first.
You've got to build the fucking structure. I don't care how silly, I don't care how much of it, and it's really painful at the very end, because you can see a lot of the stuff that you put in there doesn't exist anymore. You knocked it out with white. You put it in with black. But inevitably, it works the way that it works because you took the time and you did it right. I mean, right is
But you did
up
it
to anybody,
with intention, and you did it with skill and kind of knowledge of proportion, and just...
I did it in a way that makes me feel like I couldn't have done any more. It's solid, and people can go back and see something new in it every time.
Yeah, there's a complexity to your work that I've always really responded to. Jason was my favorite, or is my favorite artist. Before we ever started working together, I was like, this guy's my favorite artist. If I could draw like anyone, it would be him. And now I work for him, and that's really cool. So, fun fact. Oh, yeah. Jason Roberts asks, many of the artists you quote and work with have been taught or influenced by Baron's story. What are your thoughts on Baron? Baron's a sweetheart, man. I love that guy.
Baron is Baron is a unique snowflake. Like, he really is. As much as silly as that sounds, like,
he's unlike anyone. He's
yeah.
got this wisdom and this presence and this.
He's kind, and he's Yoda, and he's a genius, and He just wants everybody to share his work and see his work. He's human in that he wants everyone to see his work and it to be accessible, but yet if you know him, you still find that there are financial struggles and there are pains that he has. So he's actually just kind of acquiesced to knowing that he just wants his shit to exist. Like, not only is, I don't think underrated is the right word, but it's the, he has created a career that has inevitably spawned some of the world's most favorite illustrators. Yet, instead of like taking that shit as a mantle, he just steps away and says, "Oh, that's wonderful," and he'll go draw.
Yeah, he's
so
gracious. He's so gracious, and
his modesty is humbling.
But he's also confident. Like, he's not. You know, I think
he's
he knows
apologetic.
He's amazing. Yeah, So he's modest, but not apologetic or anxious or anything like that. Like, he is just. He just wants to share his knowledge, and his knowledge is vast. And he plays music too. I don't know if you guys knew that. He's a really good musician.
For anybody watching this that doesn't know who Baron Story is, and Story is spelled with an E, Storey. When you Google him, and when you hopefully buy any book that you can find of his, just know that this is the guy who literally taught Kent Williams, Dave McKeon. Not literally taught Dave McKeon, but Dave McKeon was absolutely will acquiesce to the fact that he's influenced and inspired by Baron. Dave Mack, Bill Sienkiewicz, like. All right, real quick. Baron Story was the guy who did the Howard Hughes portrait for Time magazine when Howard Hughes died.
Holy shit!
Baron Story did the very first ever print of the space shuttle for NASA. Baron Story did the quintessential Lord of the Flies cover.
Did. Yeah, he did.
Baron Story is the goddamn gem, and he's alive and living in San Francisco and should be worshipped.
Yes. He shaped culture. He has his fingerprints are in so many things, and it's not like he's undersung because he is beloved and he is very respected. But he's by professionals. But I don't think he ever reached wide.
The audience doesn't know he's there.
Yeah, he just.
But let me tell you, if in illustration, if you see some motherfucker putting little triangles in something, that's because of Baron. It's not because of Klimt. Klimt obviously did it first. But I'm saying that if they're doing that shit because of Baron. So yes, on a very quick personal note, I met Baron through Kent, and it was awesome and intimidating and crazy. And then probably a few months later, I was contacted by him, and he apparently leaves the country for 2 weeks with his wife Petra every year, and the person who watches their cat couldn't do it. So he asked me if I would be interested. I'd never been to San Francisco, so I'm like, what a fantastic way to visit San Francisco.
So Baron's cat.
I literally just went up and house sat for Baron for 2 weeks, of which when I showed up, he's like, the studio and everything, he's like, it's open to all, so you can look through whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, work, do whatever.
I'm so jealous.
And so my real meeting of Baron, for real, was 2 weeks in that man's studio, getting to literally flip through every one of his journals.
Fuck. If any of you have not seen Baron's journals or his sketchbooks, just look them up because they're ungodly. They're so beautiful.
I got to flip through
and
his
there's so many
files.
of them.
I'm literally flipping through Bill Withers' album covers and shit like that.
Shut up, Jason. You stop it.
So, yeah, Baron is he's special.
Yeah, absolutely. Baron's a treasure. Christian McKenzie would like to know, is Baron still teaching at Pratt? I don't know.
Oh, no. He teaches in San Francisco, whatever that art school is.
Okay. Let's see.
Pratt. Oh, man. What a great school.
Brian Ticton would like to know, can you talk about brush selection? how long will you stay with a finer brush, and when do you opt to go with a larger brush? Working large with aggressive deadlines seems tempting to use a larger brush.
It's nothing. I was gonna say nothing pushes me when it comes to a deadline, because I'm just gonna work the way that I'm gonna fucking work. But inevitably, yeah, I like to use I like to use bigger brushes, and if there's a separation, the round I really love using rounds, but I use rounds primarily in my fine art, and it's a weird thing, but it's rounds kind of, for me, imply that you're going to just glob on some paint, like you're going to go thick with it, and even with dryer, you just don't want to fuck with that when you're doing illustration. So I enjoy the manipulation of the paint with a round when there is no time frame, and when I can really layer up. The one thing in my illustration is that very few times is there ever a thickening of the paint and layering on that scale. If you see my stuff in a gallery, you're going to see, goddamn, it's going to look like one of those maps that does the whole,
like a
topographical map. But with the fine art, I typically use flats.
For the fine art, you use flats?
For the illustration, I use flats. I've been drinking. I use flats, and I typically try to stay as big as I can for as long as I can, because it just helps knock this shit in. And then inevitably I go into like halves, and then there's like a little fine guy at the end. But
when you use the fine guy, do you find yourself sort of falling into that habit of like really noodling at it? Because we've talked kind of about getting too focused on
by the time
torturing the line, and
by the time I hit the fine guy, I know what I'm going to knock in, and that's going to be it. Because especially for a cover, I'm not going to stick around long at all with a fine guy.
Christian McKenzie would like to know, just curious, Kent Williams drawings frequently have a glaze of finishing coat that looks like translucent amber in color, and he fucking loves it. Do you have any idea what paint or glaze or varnish that is? Is amber varnish?
No, I mean, he definitely, I picked up the polyurethane thing from him, so anytime that you've seen a drawing of his or a painting of his and you see this kind of yellowish shit all around, that's the polyurethane. I know what you're talking about. No, I don't know the paint or specifically the color. There was a time where he would start finishing things with a little bit of encaustic and the color, and he would start kind of glazing some things back with that. And then like he still kind of goes in with a roller, with a brayer, which I fucking love, by the way. A brayer, if nobody knows.
It lives there now.
So,
that's where that lives now.
But if you're really talking about amber, I genuinely think, this isn't like anything that's opaque that's going to go over the paint. But if you just see this kind of amber color around, it's going to be the polyurethane.
And you also use the polyurethane, so does your art also have that?
Yeah, not this one specifically, which is a little bit rare, but every piece I've ever done has that. Yeah. Yeah. So all over that piece is that kind of yellowish thing.
He talked earlier about having 3 paintings going at once, and we've got a cover here, and the fine art pieces here. So I'm going to swivel the computer real quick, because this fine art piece that's kind of in progress has a really good example of that kind of yellowish amber around the edges. So give me 1 second. You talked earlier about having 3 paintings going at once, and we've got a cover here, So I don't know if you can really tell just based on color and resolution of the camera, but this fine art one has a lot of the polyurethane around the edge. I'm going to twist this back. Is that good? That's pretty good. We've got, how much do you explore the ideation process in creating works like yums or wordless? Or do you just turn out a bunch of thumbnails to start? Themes. I'm going to repeat that. How much do you explore the ideation process in creating works like themes or wordless? Or do you just turn out a bunch of thumbnails to start? Like, how much outlining do you do and brainstorming and stuff? What form does that take?
In what? Illustration or fine art?
Or writing? Maybe any of them?
We're going to wait for a follow-up.
Are you referring to the ideation process of creating like a fine art work or comic work, or even the kind of entirety of creating a comic like the Empty Zone that's original content? So we'll wait on that one. But for anything that you do you do a lot of beforehand? None? Plotting or no? Let's see. We have 10 minutes left, so
10 minutes.
10 minutes. More questions? We've got 22 people watching now, so that's exciting. So I mentioned earlier that you get up at 5 and are here just the whole day. Have you always had that work ethic? Like, is that innate to you, or did you have to cultivate that?
The work ethic, yes. The hours, no. Up until 2003, I was nighttime. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would start drawing around 8 p.m. and I would end at 8 a.m. And then I started sharing a studio with Kent, and he was a morning guy, so I kind of adjusted so I could have more time hanging out with him. And yeah, but I think innately I'm still the fucking night owl, and I'm still fighting it as much as I get work done in the morning, but yeah, I love the solitude of working at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that what you asked?
Yeah. I asked basically if your work ethic was sort of inherent to you, that you've always had, or if you kind of cultivated over time.
I mean, it was just... I've always just fucking worked because this is not because I wanted to find the coolest day job ever. It's because it was a goddamn calling. But I realized I just said that in a kind of dismissive tone. I didn't mean it that way. Like when I found comics, like you couldn't be more thankful to find your fucking calling at 17. Because it made me realize this is what I want to do. This is the art I want to make. I want to tell stories, but I want to tell them visually. And so, when people say work ethic, I'm like, it's not work ethic to me. I goddamn love it. I owe everything I have to it. Like, you show up for that shit. You put in all the fucking hours you can for that shit. It's incredible. Like the other option is going back to work in the fucking factories, and I did that shit. I'm done. This is amazing. So why not put everything you fucking have into it? And in doing that, you also have to pay attention to your own body. Like, when do I work the best? When can I make this the most efficient thing? And that's when you figure out whether you're morning or you're night, when you work better. Like, it's weird to know that I work in short stints, but I've had to adjust my life to accommodate those short stints. When I'm feeling it, I don't care if I'm playing with baby and talking to wife, like, I get up, I'm like, shit, and I'm gone. That's it. Like, but, I mean, that said, it's not just this whole, like, inspiration hits and there you go. I truly agree with Chuck Close. Inspiration is for amateurs. You discover everything in the work.
The rest of us just show up.
The rest of us just show, yeah.
All right, we've got about 5 minutes and a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So, the question earlier about kind of outlining has been fleshed out. So, but I think your answer was kind of just like no, never.
Yeah,
how much do you explore the ideation process in freelance illustration? Was the sort of what he was getting at.
About 5 minutes and a couple of questions.
A lot. It's just more intensive. I don't wait.
Or for narrative work.
Yeah, I don't wait for shit to come to me. Those are what my mornings are for. My mornings are the time where I'm clearest in my head, and those are the times when I just read and try to consider and do sketches and shit like that. But nothing really beyond that.
How tight are common deadlines for you?
Sometimes insanely tight.
Yeah, I've seen you like a lunatic. Just like, oh my god, this deadline. You're...
The most current issue of Spawn that comes out next week was a 20-day deadline.
Fuck.
And it was nuts. I mean, like, that's the weird thing. Like, that's where you realize you love making comics, when you deal with that bullshit.
Christian McKenzie would like to know, how did you get into these situations where you shared studio space with Kent Williams and George Pratt?
Made that shit happen. I was hit up. I contacted George a long time ago when I was living in Tennessee over the internet, and we just kind of he's a natural teacher. That guy's a fucking giver, and he was so kind and so helpful. And then inevitably he was like, dude, you should totally check out Chapel Hill. Like, it's me and Scott Hampton and Kent and Tommy Lee Edwards and all these guys. I'm like, holy shit, I love all of you. And inevitably, I stood in the living room in Tennessee, in Portland, Tennessee, with my dad. And I told him I was either going to go to North Carolina to try to hang out with these guys I've never met before, or I was going to go to art school. And this was 2000. And I flipped the fucking coin, and it ended up North Carolina.
Did you seriously flip the coin?
I flipped the coin.
Holy shit.
I flipped the coin, and I had a witness, which was my father. And I was like, oh shit, I guess I'm going to North Carolina for some reason. So I did.
So you just did that.
Little paint.
He's drinking more paint.
Yeah. Over the course, my day job, by the way, at that time was Kinko's. You can't beat Kinko's if you're a comic book guy. I stole more from that company than I ever made it. So I worked there, and I was hanging out, because of our email, I was hanging out with George Pratt at his studio. Cool. And inevitably I bought a book from Kent, the Cohen book, Koan, that just came out at that time. I bought it from him, and he's like, oh shit, you live close, just come and pick it up. So that was our first interaction, but long story short, his personal life and my personal life both had shit. And we met at the perfect time where we could just kind of hang out and bitch about life, and inevitably started sharing a studio together.
So you flipped the coin, and there we are. Holy fuck. Alright, we have 2 minutes left. I actually don't know if we have it kind of set up to end at 7, so I don't know if it does that automatically, so it could cut out mid-word, which would be awkward. But we have one last question, and if we do just sort of get cut in the middle, thank you for doing this, you guys. And cheers to him, and cheers to you guys. So, this last question, in our last 2 minutes, is from Myron Macklin, and he asks, how do you like using Patreon? Do you enjoy making the process videos? And you never answered the question about a truth that you believe that other people don't, so you should write a blog about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer that one in a blog, because that was such a powerful shit.
But how do you
I
like
say shit, but that's because I'm drinking.
How do you like using Patreon? And do you enjoy making the process videos? Oh, it's 6:59.
6:59. I fucking hated it. I thought it was appalling. It was putting all of my private shit online and being exposed, and I still feel that way. But inevitably, the people I've met through Patreon and what I've gotten to do has been utterly rewarding, and that's not a cheesy thing to try to say. Like, Patreon has now jumped up in my priority list as a primary project, and Patreon. I would love for more money, you know, yeah, you slipped up because you're drinking good, but more money and more people to come through Patreon so I could legitimately make a project and do Patreon, because this is really becoming very fulfilling, and I'm enjoying it more and more every time, even though every post seems to have an apology with it, like, sorry I didn't get to this, sorry I didn't get to that. I'm sorry because I genuinely want to do more, and if there's an ad here, like, the more patrons I can get, the more I can do, because I have come to really enjoy this. I mean, shit, I'm getting drunk live on the internet.
Just hanging out with people. And the more that you make from it, the more that you can pay me to do. Like, I'll be here for more hours,
Yeah.
sort of. So,
The more patrons we can get, the more I can keep zine, and the more shit that I can produce, which means more exclusive webcomics just for you guys. Literally just for you guys. I'm not posting this shit elsewhere. So, yeah. Did it cut us off? Are we done?
I don't think it cut us off. It is 7 o'clock now. I don't think it's cut us off, but...
Has it cut us off? Are we done? Somebody post a quick comment.
Wait for the delay.
Literally just maybe like a 20-second thing in each week.
Someone just answered, so it's still going.
It's still going?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think we have to manually end transmission.
Awesome.
Do you have anything else to say, or do you want to end on a bit of an ad?
No. I kind of just did an ad.
Right. So I was wondering if you wanted to end on, like, promo.
How much do you guys want to see Zine take a real big drink? Where's your scotch? Where's this scotch you've just been nibbling at? I'm gone, like, this is last number. Come on.
Alright, thanks everyone. This has been really fun. I guess we will manually shut this down, and Jason's insisting that I drink more with him. So, cheers to you. Cheers to you guys.
Cheers to
Thanks
you
for
guys.
everything.
Thank you
for all the great questions.
Really quick before we do it. Don't shut me down just yet.
Yeah. Meadowsaw says, this won't end, ever. I like it.
Tell you what. And this isn't because I've been drinking. This is something that happened earlier today. I'm going to do another live chat next Sunday because my best friend, long-term friend from Tennessee, the letterer of Empty Zone, Sherrod Jackson, who also does a webcomic called Darby. Please check out Darby.
Tell you what.
He's going to be here, and so we're going to do a 1-hour chat next Sunday, just for shits and giggles. We're going to sit down together, and, you know, hopefully with Zine, and we're just going to shoot the shit. But, yeah, really quick, thank you. All of it, it's incredible. And, you know, I hope you're drinking too.
So we'll post about that next live stream, and try to get the correct link and all of those things. We're still hammering it out. But we will definitely post in advance about the live stream. And will we do the same time? Or do you want to change it for the people who are international?
Same time.
Same time, same place, next Sunday. And we'll post, and hopefully we'll get it going smoothly. All right?
We'll post about that next time.
Cheers. Thank you for everything. Have a good night or day wherever you are.
But we'll definitely post in advance about the live stream.
I don't know how to shut it down. The encoder.
Just start hitting Command Q over and over again. And just shut everything down.
All right, everyone. All right, everyone. Thank you.